Okay, welcome to the second episode of Controversies and Careers. In this episode, we will be talking about careers. This is Beth, and my topic is NICU nursing.
This is Shelby. My topic is fighting and hockey.
Okay, for the first question, what are the physical effects of fighting in hockey?
You're going to have injuries, obviously. You're fighting. But contrarily, I can't say that word, contrary to what you would think, fighting isn't your number one source of injuries in hockey. You're going to have accidental injuries that happen way more than, fighting injuries.
Okay, the next question is, do you think fighting should be in hockey?
I think so, because fighting is I think it makes the game safer. The refs can't call every dirty play or if you're going to have someone from the other team fight a star player, you have to protect your team. It's about teamwork.
Okay, since we're talking about careers, what is the income of a hockey player?
That depends on who you play for. Your salary is going to range from team to team, and your contract. You can be a free agent and work for a year and be traded to and from different teams, or you can have a long-term contract. Like the highest paid hockey player right now is Patrick Kane, and he plays for the Chicago Blackhawks, and he has an 8-year contract for $84 million over the course of those 8 years, which is like $10 million-ish per year. And currently the highest playing team is the Los Angeles Kings, but it all just depends on who you're playing for, or what your contract is, or what position you play. Because if you're a defenseman, you can get pay bonuses for being a fighter on the ice. All right, so I'm gonna ask you some questions. Throw this on you. So, what does the NICU stand for?
NICU stands for Neonatal Intensive Care Unit. That's pretty much it.
And
it's basically the ICU just for infants.
Yeah, newborns, right?
Yeah.
And do NICU nurses get any kind of training?
Most NICU nurses don't get specialized training before going into working in the NICU, unless the hospital decides to train them, but not all hospitals do that.
And what specific jobs does a NICU nurse have? Like, what are the responsibilities of a NICU nurse?
NICU nurses have a lot of responsibilities. One of them is to care for the infants, watch over them, make sure they're eating, they're growing, they're getting their medicines. Along with that job, they have to inform the doctor of what's happening with the infant, of whether the infant stopped growing, whether the medicine doesn't seem to be working. They have to pay close attention. And usually they have, 1 to 5 infants a day working. Another job is to teach the parents about what's happening to the infant, because all they know is their infant's hooked up to a bunch of machines.
Yeah.
So the nurse has to explain what's going on, what's going to happen in the future, and how to deal with it, and how to interact with their infants, because interactions with parents can help the infants develop. So those interactions are important, so the nurses need to make sure the parents understand that.
Yeah. Okay, so I have another question for you. What education does a NICU nurse have? What are the steps to becoming a NICU nurse?
Well, a NICU nurse goes to school like any other nurse, goes to nursing school, and they don't focus on NICU nursing. They learn about all different types of NICU nursing, or all types of nursing. And usually they hear about NICU nursing once they get into their pediatrics semester or their family semester. Because most nursing schools, they don't have a specific for pediatrics or infants. It's a family nursing, meaning they talk about childbearing, pediatrics, and might throw in NICU nursing. And then they'll have clinicals with each semester, and they might get a chance, a nursing student might get a chance to work in the NICU, but that's kind of rare because the NICU is not in every hospital, so it's harder to get in to work there, and also just the fact of how tight-knit the NICU is, how like high level the patients are, that they're not just gonna let any nursing student,
any random nursing student.
Yeah. They have to be like the top of the top class. So not all NICU nurses have experience in the NICU when they graduate from school.
So you think that there should be some kind of specialization for a NICU nurse?
I think they should have the option to spend some time in the NICU before graduating, so they know whether that's actually, because it's a
high pressure kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay, well, I have another question for you. What are the positions in hockey, and who does the most fighting?
Your positions in hockey are kind of confusing. You have your forwards and your defensemen. You'll have for the forwards, you'll have a center, a left wing, and a right wing. And then for defense, you have your left defense and your right defense, and they're on their specific sides. And then you have a goalie, but the goalie stays in the goal. That's their job. Your defense players are typically your fighters. There used to be, back in the day, you would have an unofficial role on a hockey team called the enforcer, and now that was never like a position under the NHL rulebook. It was just like a fancier name for like this one guy on the team who's gonna do all the bare knuckle fighting, and that was his job. He normally wouldn't be drafted to play hockey. He'd be drafted for fighting. It was his fighting skills that got him into the NHL. So but nowadays it's more of defense players who will do more fighting because their job is defense. But it's fighting today is not as like what as it was back in the day. I say like back in the day, like the 70s was like when fighting really brought it. It was rough and tumble hockey players. Thanks for listening to the Careers and Controversies podcast. Tune in next week.
No.